What happens after the final breath? Does consciousness simply fade into nothingness, or does it pass through portals far beyond our understanding? Welcome, soul traveler, to the greatest mystery existence has to offer. Today we're diving into one of the most mystical, profound, and transformative texts in Tibetan Buddhism, the Bardo Thodol, known in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. But forget everything you think you know about death. What we're about to explore isn't the end. It's the beginning of a journey. Picture a map, a true spiritual guide that leads the soul through an invisible landscape right after physical life ends. That's what the Bardo Thodol is. And no, it's not just a manual for the afterlife. It's a complete roadmap for the soul, a liberation manual showing how to navigate the in-between states, from death to rebirth. And the most surprising part, according to this ancient tradition, death isn't a tragedy. It's a rare opportunity to reach enlightenment. The Bardo Thodol was passed down by a legendary figure, Padmasambhava, an 8th century spiritual master known as the one who brought Buddhism to Tibet. They called him Guru Rinpoche, the precious master. But he wasn't just a monk. He was a Mahasiddha, someone who had achieved extraordinary spiritual realization, mastering esoteric techniques and hidden powers. Invited by the Tibetan king Trisong Detsen, Padmasambhava arrived in a land still steeped in shamanic rituals and animistic beliefs from the Bon Religion. But instead of fighting those forces, he integrated them with Buddhism, building a bridge between the old and the new. That's how Tibet's first Buddhist monastery, Samye, was born. In Tibetan belief, death is a transition, and paradoxically, one of the most powerful moments for spiritual liberation. Padmasambhava understood that in this moment, the mind is free from the body, more open to ultimate truth. But most people get lost in this state, overwhelmed by fear, attachment, and illusion. That's why he created the Bardo Thodol, to be read aloud to the dying or studied while still alive. It's a kind of spiritual emergency manual designed to guide you through the most critical moment of your existence. The first stage is called Chikai Bardo, the moment of death itself. Here, the physical body dissolves. Consciousness is released, and then the Primordial Clear Light appears. This light is described as a vast, pure, radiant brilliance, transcendent and infinite. It's the original nature of the mind and the absolute state of consciousness, free from ego, fear, or duality. Some call it the solar mind, others the higher self. But its essence is the same: total peace. If the soul recognizes this light as part of itself, liberation is instant. No more rebirths, no more suffering, but if the mind is unprepared, still clinging to the familiar or paralyzed by fear, it won't recognize the light, and it moves forward into the next stage. This next phase is called the Chönyid Bardo, the Bardo of visions. It's the most vivid, intense, and terrifying part of the journey. The soul is now bodiless, floating in a realm where everything it sees is a projection of its own mind. And then come the visions, peaceful deities radiating serenity, wrathful beings, monstrous, terrifying, reflections of the soul's deepest fears, desires, and traumas. But these aren't external beings, they're psychic projections. As Carl Jung once said, gods and demons are images of the unconscious until we recognize them as part of ourselves. The peaceful deities represent the soul's virtues, the wrathful ones, its inner demons. Both are opportunities for learning, for recognition, for liberation. But if the soul doesn't realize that all of this is a mental illusion, it gets trapped in these visions. Fear and attachment turn them into seemingly solid realities. And so the cycle of suffering, samsara, continues. The key here is reconnecting with the clear light. It's still there, beyond the visions, beyond the chaos. If the soul stays lucid and realizes that everything it sees is empty by nature, awakening happens. But if not, the journey goes on. The third stage is Sidpa Bardo, the Bardo of rebirth, and this one's crucial because it decides the soul's next destination. At this point, the soul either chooses or is pulled into a new life. What determines that choice? Karma. Everything you've thought, felt, and done builds momentum. The mind, now heavy with unresolved desires and fears, starts seeking a new body. The soul sees symbolic images of couples coming together, and driven by unconscious impulses, it's drawn into the cycle of reincarnation. For Tibetan masters, this moment is like a psychic storm. The soul is swept away, almost without awareness, by internal forces it can't control. But there's still one last shot. If the soul can stay clear, not latch onto any image, if it can see the illusory nature of what's unfolding, it can choose not to be reborn, and in doing so, escape the cycle of birth and death entirely. The Bardo Thodol isn't just a book about what happens after we die. It's a mirror, a map of consciousness, a guide for liberation, right here, right now, because at its core, it reveals a powerful truth. Life and death are just phases of the same journey. Everything we experience, think, and feel shapes the soul's path beyond this life. Preparing for death isn't morbid. It's learning to live with presence, awareness, and love. It's realizing that every choice matters. Every thought has power. As Ram Dass said, in the end, we're all just walking each other home. So if this journey through the Tibetan Book of the Dead resonated with you in any way, share this video. Drop a comment. What part of the afterlife intrigues you the most? Your curiosity might spark a light in someone else's mind. Hit subscribe and let's keep exploring the great mysteries of existence together. After all, life only starts to make sense when we understand what lies beyond it. Thanks for watching.